Hello and welcome to session 23 of the 5-Minute Bible Guides. In session 22, we looked at whether science conflicts with the Bible. We came to the conclusion that fundamentally science and the Bible do not conflict because they each address reality from different perspectives. Science examines the physical world and the Bible probes beyond to the supernatural. In this session, we'll be looking at the critics of the Bible. Well, since the close of the New Testament period, there have been those who have dismissed, criticized, and attempted to refute the Bible. So Bible criticism is nothing new. In recent centuries, however, it's taken new forms and influenced large segments of our society. Many universities and the media, even entertainment, have taken on the views of Bible critics. So let's jump in and start with the school of higher criticism. Well, higher criticism of the Bible emerged in its classic form in European universities in the mid-1800s, led by German scholars K.H. Graf and Julius Wellhausen. These Bible critics studied the Pentateuch, which is Genesis through Deuteronomy, using a theory called the documentary hypothesis. The main idea of the documentary hypothesis is that the Pentateuch evolved over many centuries into its present form. The higher critics theorized that these books must have begun with bits and pieces of primitive religious concepts, ancient religious rituals, fragments of oral stories and legends, and written scraps of questionable historical value. According to the documentary hypothesis, various editors combined and formed these basic sources into distinct religious documents many centuries after the pieces were collected. Graf and Wellhausen named these hypothetical sources of the Pentateuch Yahwist, Elohist, Deuteronomist, and priestly documents because of their subject matter and vocabulary. These four documents, J, E, D, and P, were edited and combined and woven together into the current books of Genesis and Deuteronomy, according to their theory. Now, once the documentary hypothesis caught on at the university level, it opened the door to other critical approaches to studying and interpreting the Bible. For example, form criticism accepted the basic idea of the higher critics that the Bible is simply a collection of ancient literature rather than as a supernatural revelation. But it goes on to focus on the literature types within the Bible, and they attempt to trace the evolution of that literature back to its original primitive sources. So form critics classify portions of Scripture according to types like proverb, poetry, apocalypse, narrative, etc. And they tend to assume that the biblical documents do not represent the original form of the writings, and they attempt to hypothesize what the original oral form of the written literature might be. From there, scholars speculate on the purpose or agenda of the authors in their original cultural contexts. The problem is that none of the assumptions of the Bible critics can be proven. Their assumptions are just that, guesses at where the Bible books came from. The very title of the original theory gives the assumptions away. It's called the documentary hypothesis. A hypothesis is an unproven theory. And there are no ancient written scraps stored in a vault somewhere that these critics can produce to prove their ideas. They seem to have begun their study with the assumption that the Bible was untrustworthy and had been cobbled together by people with questionable motives. Yet because it came from academics with sophisticated degrees, it was largely accepted and has become the norm for how the Bible is viewed in most of the secular world. Traditionalists who have a truly high view of the Bible were initially caught unprepared by the onslaught of critical scholarship. Some traditionalists simply responded to the documentary hypothesis with angry denials about these new theories. However, as time passed, this emotional reaction was followed in the mid and late 20th century by more careful traditional scholarship. Traditionalist scholars built an impressive and reasoned defense of the Bible based upon the wealth of manuscript evidence that we have, and they engaged in thoughtful interaction with the views of critically oriented academia. Traditionalists have pointed out that the higher critical approach lacks concrete evidence of those supposed earlier document sources, and is based almost solely on the assumptions that tend to be skeptical toward the Bible documents as reliable history and faithful narrative. Today, the camps are widely divided, but something very interesting has happened. Churches that have supported the critical view have tended to hemorrhage membership, and traditionalist churches often have grown significantly. It makes sense. If the Bible is nothing but a collection of ancient myths and unscientific ideas, then what's the point? Let's play golf, let's sleep in, or go to the beach on Sunday mornings. If the Bible is an outdated and inaccurate collection of ancient writings, then church and synagogue are based on nothing eternal. So why bother? But if the Bible is accurate, if it's reliable and inspired, and I think it is, well, then we can base our lives and our eternity on it. In the next session, we'll probe a bit further on this topic of Bible criticism. We'll take a quick peek at some prominent critics of the Bible and then at others who have supported it. Till then, this is Dr. Michael Bogart for the 5-Minute Guides to the Bible.